One. Hi everyone, it's another journey, and today's journey is the founder of, and it's going to be the podcast title so people know what we're talking about. It's going to be called StoryTrust Media, and our guest helps brands build trust and lasting connections through the power of storytelling. He also specializes in podcast and audiobook production, making it simple for creators and companies to launch and sustain content that engages their audience without the hassle. And I know for a fact, before I introduce our guest, that you do get certain people who do specialize in podcast and audiobook production, but those people, I would say, always err to caution. And I believe our guest will believe in that theory because there is a lot of scammers out there who are like, we want to help you, we want to do this, we want to do that. But they always ask for, and I'm not saying our guest does this as well, but there is an element of where they want monetary gain or they want to take control of everything you own. That's not the point. The point is when you do audio production of any description, it should be your own. Yes, if you work with someone, it's got to be someone you can trust. And let's listen to the person who we're talking to today. And he is called Jon.
David, thank you so much for having me on, man. I'm really excited for this conversation. You talked about your background in radio and voiceover too, and what you just said about the power and importance of trust in podcasting. So important, and I know we're going to dive into that today.
Yes, and it's very true. And like I said, I'm not trying to condone these people because some of them I've accepted onto my LinkedIn because I have LinkedIn for anyone who's wondering. And you get people bombard. Since I've been promoting my podcast a lot more on social media, it's like we want to help you edit, we want to do this, and it's like I'm doing it already. You can see it's already been done. Why are you trying to sell me a product?
Yeah.
Which, or why are you wanting to? It's like they give themselves the glorified titles of YouTube editor or podcast creator. It's something like that. And it's like, why do you want to take over something that I've already built?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's because you build it through your authentic self and you already have this. That's why I like to focus on convincing people or just informing people of how powerful a podcast can be. So my target audience is not people who already have podcasts like yourself, but people who are thinking about doing podcasts and see the value in it, but don't have the time to do all the legwork behind it.
Mm,
So I do get those all the time. Hey, I'll help you edit. I'll help you promote your podcast, whatever that even means. There's no shortcut to podcast promotion. Everybody thinks that, well, if you just hire this person or do a couple clicks here and there, you'll get thousands and thousands of followers. There's no shortcut. It's a long game. You got to
yeah,
keep doing it. And that's the importance of podcasting. But yeah, I like I said, I really try to focus on those businesses, especially who know that they want a podcast but don't have the resources to or the time to do it themselves. But so many people out there are trying to get a little piece of you here and there and trying to get your business, even though clearly you're already doing a perfectly fine job editing on your own.
Yeah, it's like another classic example. And like I said, I'm not condoning them. They have and if they are real, they are real. But I notice a lot of common names when I do see the names coming up. So it's like, I know they are more likely scamish.
Yes.
But it's like YouTube. They like do a screenshot and they email it to me and say, and then they point arrows to certain things. It's like, we noticed your views are low, and they point to the exact figure. And I know my views are not exactly thousands when I broadcast, but at the same time, with our YouTube and algorithms nowadays, it's a lot more difficult. So how are they going to make it easier for me to have followers?
Yeah. Yeah. And I get that all the time too. And my first reaction is you're trying to sell me and build a trust-based relationship by starting out by saying that I suck. Like that isn't building a lot of trust in my opinion. Like, hey David, I see your stuff. It really sucks. Let me help you. I mean, no, I want somebody to say, hey David, I see your stuff. You're doing great work. I really love what you're doing.
Mm,
And then gently bring up ways that they can help provide value. But that makes me feel so bad. And whenever I'm feeling bad, I'm certainly not in a position to earn your trust and to be able to feel like I actually want to pursue a further relationship with you. Because it's really about how somebody reaching out is making you, their prospect, feel, and insulting your content right off the bat is just not an effective way, in my
yeah.
opinion.
And it goes for sponsorship. I don't want to go to, I'm not saying I would go to any of these people, but potential sponsors. If I want a potential sponsor, I don't want to have something go out there and it's overridden by someone who's not me, because that will ruin my potential element that I could reach out to potential sponsors.
Yeah.
So I have to look for legitimate people. And as you know from YouTube or even any social media, if you do get a sponsorship, it takes a lot for people to recognize that you are a recognized person. And then you can get 20% off and then, the product, for example, bananas on a tree, fresh to your house every day, you get that. But it has to be genuine. And
Yeah.
that's the bottom line for anything, including sponsorship.
Yeah. And it,
Now I get fake emails as well saying, David, we've got this money out for you. And then it's like, what money? $20 million, for example. It's like,
if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
yeah. And then the most common one recently is like Aldi, a supermarket. There is other ones available, so I'm not just going there, but he got a gift card for you for £100. Click this link to, and before you know it, they got your details and
And the scary thing is that with like AI and stuff, this stuff is only getting more and more common too, right? I mean, I'm getting hundreds of messages all the time. And LinkedIn is that big platform where people, hey, I'll promote your podcast. Hey, this sucks on your website. Your SEO isn't optimized. I'll do this. I'll do that. It's like, guess what? I'm not interested in your cold reach out to tell me that something sucks, to tell me that you can somehow come in and save the day. What trust have you built through that connection? Absolutely none. You've
mm,
just cold reached out. So that's why I've really gone away from the cold reaching out to potential prospects, but I'm really focusing on the quality over the quantity of the relationships that I have and try to build those relationships because that's genuinely what makes a difference in any sort of business.
yeah. And production, I'm not, I know a lot because obviously being in the radio, I knew a lot. But when I started production independently, when I first came to America, because I did most of my radio work in England, I was always fascinated with interviews back then. And obviously it was in person and I did a few myself. I even out presenters with their guests. But when I first came to America, all I did my interviews on when I first started was a tablet, iPad. I didn't have a proper camera because the iPad I was using at the time wasn't a good quality camera. And that's not saying Apple were rubbish with their cameras back then on the iPad, but they were. I didn't have a proper microphone. I didn't have earphones. The only earphones I had, and I think they were phasing out at the time, but the only ones that I had was a jack in the iPad and the little loops. I didn't use the proper ones, what I'm using now. And then I didn't even have a ring light. I didn't have a green screen.
Yep.
Now, the early production videos are lost. It's just audio only. So, but you can tell when you hear back, it's like, but then over time, I got better and better and better. Started using a computer. I started using a proper camera. I then got the ring light. I then got the green. I got things in stages.
Yeah. And you did something that's very powerful and that I tell podcasters all the time is just start. You won't have all the equipment that you want right off the bat, but that doesn't mean you can't start with something.
Yeah,
Whatever you have, start with it because the hardest part is getting started. And once you start building that momentum in podcasting, you start slowly acquiring those other pieces of equipment that enhance the quality of your show, like you've done over the years and over the episodes that you've done now over 200, right? So but you don't need all of that. People, and this is probably true in life in general, right? And this is part of my story. You don't need to have every circumstance perfect before you take the leap into something, podcasting or anything in life. That's the biggest lie we tell ourselves in life that, oh, I'm not ready because this situation isn't perfect. My finances aren't in order. My body isn't the way that I want it to be. We tell ourselves those lies all the time, but the truth is when we just start, we figure the rest out. And that's true about podcasting too. You just start with even just an iPhone or an iPad or a desktop computer. Then as you progress and get better, you start adding other things like lights and fancy cameras and fancy microphones, and you enhance your show as time goes on. But there's no rule saying you need all that stuff up front before you start.
yeah. And when you do look at it, if you do it in stages, it's affordable.
Yes. Yes.
Like the earphones I'm using, they look top quality,
Yep.
$5.
Mm,
The
yeah.
microphone I use, $35. I know you got the more expensive one, and I love the more expensive ones. I always get excited when, and that's the thing I'm working on properly is getting a proper microphone. But I'm happy with the one I got because it's good, it's clear. You're not
Yep.
exactly saying I can't hear you because it's a.
It sounds good to me. It really
Yeah.
does sound good. So, I'm surprised to hear that it isn't an expensive one, but it goes to show that especially with technology today, you don't necessarily need the most expensive
Mm.
stuff.
The camera was already with the computer because it's my partner's computer. So she said you can use the webcam and it's a 2K. Yeah, it's a 2K HD autofocus webcam.
Yeah,
The ring
does the
light,
job.
the ring light originally was me just researching the desk light, and then I saw this one that screwed into the desk like my microphone is, and it can situate behind the so and then the green screen that was 35. So in total, I think in the production in the last year, I've only spent about $100.
And that's all you need. And that's the beauty of it because how do we build trust with our audience? Because it's all in podcasting, I believe, about trust, which is why my brand's called StoryTrust Media, because telling stories builds trust. We build trust through the authenticity that we show, not by having all of the right gadgets and bells and whistles to go with the show. And that's how we build trust when our audience looks or hear at us or hears us and says, that guy's just like me, that girl's just like me. That's how we build trust. So not necessarily needing to run out and get all the expensive equipment. That's such a big barrier. People are so afraid to start a podcast because they're like, well, I need a professional studio. No, not necessarily. Not anymore. In this day and age, starting a podcast, the barrier to entry is so low, yet our perceived barrier to entry for some reason is so high. And that's just one of those misconceptions that the more conversations we have, the more we can break that down.
Yeah. So I don't often refer to notes in any way because I always believe it's the true authentic self and I don't have notes. But I'm just referring to what was sent to me in the email yesterday, and I put it on my Facebook as well. But there was a guest I had. A podcast is going to be released in the next few days, I would say, because it's in that backlog I've got. I
Yeah.
told you I got backlog. But she wrote me a message just to because she was new to the podcasting world, and I said what she did. I think she was an author as well or something. I forgot the exact details, and I know she'll understand when if she is this. But I said to her, be part of a community radio station. Go there, tell your story like you told me. She said, how do you do that? I just said, go to where you're, because in England, when this is me going back to my England times, in England, it's not all about corporate radio stations. It's not always about commercial radio stations. It's about a thing, and it's a thing that's close to my, it's called community radio,
Yes. Yeah. Which
which
we
is like,
have here, but
which
not
is,
as
which
much.
is, which is strong for the community. And I always believe community radio should be everywhere where you can't have corporate or commercial radio.
Yeah.
But they wrote me a message and they said, hiya, David, and or how are you, David? So I must say, just wanted to share that I contacted the community team radio as suggested, because I suggested going to that radio station, and I've been featured on two shows. And they also go on to say they've been asked to be a Roman reporter for, and it's just a big festival in England, Cheltenham Literary Festival, and have been offered a show. So it was really escalated. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with me.
Yeah. Community radio is such a great way to get your name out there and practice these things like telling stories, having conversations, building trust through your authenticity. And I wish we had more of it here in the US. Now we do have some, right?
Mm,
Community radio stations are in some communities, but the majority of the industry is consumed by big corporate conglomerates who are very profit hungry.
yeah, and the corporate ones, I always say they want more money, and then you do that after commercial ones. But I feel like, and this is not me comparing because I don't want to compare in any way, but it feels like there's more commercials in America than there is in England. In
Mm,
America, you got at least five, six, seven, sometimes minutes of commercials,
yep.
more than
Yeah.
music or speech. It's like, join us after this for, our messages, and then we come back, and it's like 10 minutes later, welcome back. No. You lose track of what's around you.
Yeah.
Now, in England, it's different. You play music or you're talking, and then it fades into welcome to the, you got it subtly fade into the commercials, or there's a jingle, then it goes into the adverts, and then it goes into another jingle, and then it goes back. Welcome back to the, it's that sort of thing.
Yeah. And the
Mm,
radio industry here wonders why it's struggling. It's struggling because it can't hold people's attention
yeah.
through all of those commercials, but
And
they
it's
need those
and it's the
commercials to
same for
survive.
mainstream TV.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
I know one, I'm not going to say their names because I don't want to be accountable for their reasons, and I don't want them to even come back to me and say, well, this is what we do, we have to do it. But usually they do a fast break, and then the other breaks are literally 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
So they do one fast break, which is literally like a minute break, which features two adverts, and then it goes back into the show, and then it goes into the normal routine after. That's like, why not just have a couple adverts like that every commercial break? It makes more sense.
Yeah. To spread them out. No, they like to chunk them in one big block and lose their entire audience.
Yeah,
And we wonder why we're struggling.
like the community radio station I was part of, and this is the way I think it was. It used to have the news at top of the hour. Then you had a segment, then it went to originally 20 past, and then you had a break, and then you still had the features like travel, whatever it was. Then you had another block, and then 22, you had another block, and then it went around to the hour again. So you had 20-minute blocks.
Yep.
But now I think they changed it. It's still got the features like I said, travel and all, but it's in with the weather. And then they say quarter past we're gonna have, or I think it is still 20 past, but we have one advert here, and then at 22 it's got another advert, and then it's got the top of the hour, which is just usually promoting something from the radio. But community radio stations can afford that because that's what's affordable for them.
Yeah. And when you have people who are genuinely passionate about it, it's not a job for them. It's an opportunity to tell their story.
Yeah.
And that's something that unfortunately we've lost in terrestrial radio here in the US is the power of just storytelling. We don't tell good stories. We instead are more concerned with the profit, how many stations we can acquire, what our market share is, all of those different things that community radio really isn't concerned with.
And you talk about storytelling and voiceover. I believe those two marry together.
Yes. Absolutely. I think telling a good story with your voice, this is how it's been done since the beginning of human civilization. We didn't
A-
always have writing. We certainly didn't always have media like television or streaming, but we've
And
always had our voices.
and we didn't have music always either.
No, you're right. Yeah, and we've always had our voices. So sitting around the campfire, getting warm, telling stories with our voices. We are hardwired as humans to use our voice and to communicate and tell stories with our voice. And
Yeah.
stories create impact, and most importantly, stories build trust with one another because we see ourselves in other people. I mean, how many times have you had a disagreement with someone, maybe say a political disagreement with someone, and you're having an argument about something, but they tell a story that informs you of why they are. Somebody who's say pro gun control or anti gun control, we can argue and yell at each other back and forth as much as we want, but oftentimes their position is informed by a story. And once we hear their story, even if they hold the opposite position as we do, we're at least warm to that person and we have more empathy towards, okay, this is why they hold that position.
Mm.
Maybe they lost somebody to gun violence. Maybe they grew up hunting or doing something else with guns that, but there's a reason why they feel the way that they feel. And if we feel the opposite way, that's fine. And they don't have to change our minds. It's not all about converting people, but it's all about just having empathy and understanding that that doesn't make them any less human for holding a different opinion. And stories open the door to that.
And then you got to be in the open opinion. That's why when I did interviews, and I have done several, which I've explained pre-interview, I've always had the respect to be allowing them to tell their true story. But if they then realize, and I even realize after, but I still allow it, it's like I respect it and I got to not upload it, but it's there if I want to upload it. But
Right.
in the political scale of things, I can't upload that at the moment. And out of respect for the person I was talking to, I can't upload that original one. Now I got it. It's there. It's not in the system ready to click and up, say it's there straight away. I just got to upload it properly. It's just there for me to have a laugh with and just listen to when I want to hear a genuine story that is really genuine. And
Mm.
don't get me wrong, all guests are genuine. I believe that, but this one was a very strong one, and I'm just like, I didn't believe it was him. It is him. His story is out there now on my podcast list. I'm not going to link it anywhere, but people who know me will know which one I'm talking about. And the second one, even though he was passionate, it was not as passionate as the first one.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the key. Passion is so important too. And you have a lot of this for the content that you
Yeah,
create. I've seen a couple of your previous episodes.
but
And without that passion, you don't have that authentic connection with your audience.
we're talking about, like I said, we're talking about storytelling and voiceover. Now, I didn't have a radio show per se before I left England. I was always you know, what they would call broadcast manager. Well, not broadcast. It was like I forgot what they call broadcast assistant,
Mhm.
which meant I didn't have an automatic role except for I was allowed to edit things. I was allowed to, welcome guests in. I was basically as they call in England, a glorified tea person. But it wasn't a disrespect to me because the people knew my potential. So I still had responsibilities, but it was just not automatically behind the mic talking as David.
Sure.
But, and the only time I was allowed to do things is like it came round to Christmas. They wanted voices from the radio show to say, wishing you Merry Christmas. I was allowed to do a voiceover for that to say, this is David, and but some presenters wanted me to be part of their show.
Yep.
So to break up the way it was, one presenter had me reading a travel for their show, which was pre-recorded and then sent across, and he was able to click the button and say, "Welcome, David, for the travel." You know, it sounded live, like I was actually doing a, which was good. But then there was this radio presenter who's sadly no longer with us, and she was an actress in her time. Not known in America, I don't think, but in England, she was very well known for certain things, and she always spoke with her eloquence with her voice. And part of her show was featuring a cat or dog or both. Sometimes it was two dogs, two cats. Well, it depends on what she had sent to her. And she used to read it herself, saying, "We got Tibbles here. Tibbles is a 2-year-old cat."
Mm.
And then she used to go into the dramatization of the voiceover. "Hey, I'm Tib." You know, she had that sort of voice. But because she was, I'm not saying she was rebellious against certain management levels, but I want you to be the come in and talk for me to just do the voice, talk about the cat or dog. And I said, okay. And I took what she did, but I made it my own. So I was like, all right, banana. I did things. So I was still on there, but I was using my voice. And
Yeah.
people were like, wow. They didn't tell me off because she was like, well, he's helping me do the cat and dog. It's part of my show.
Yeah, and and it's just a talent to have that to be able to do that. To That's why they call it voice acting sometimes, not just voice over, because there's so many different things. If you're narrating an audiobook, for example, which is one thing I do often, you have to be able to change your voice. You have to be able to talk like somebody different
Mm,
sometimes, and even just these subtle changes. I mean, come on, like every once in a while, like I just have to play somebody who got like this kind of guy who doesn't give a shit, and then you got like the other really scared kind of person who's just apprehensive about everything, and then you got my regular narrator voice. That's we call it theater of the mind.
yeah.
That's the power of voiceover, and
And
then
that
with some post
and that's how
production
she
tools.
described it. She said it is the bit of a mind because you're allowing
Yep.
yourself to be. And, when I did performing arts in school, I remember certain plays I took part in school, the first one I did, I was 14 at the time. My voice was literally breaking, but I had to refer to a 6-year-old. So I had to make sure my face was really low because I had to really, because if I sounded like myself, which at the time could have got away with, it was like in between. So I had to really lower my tone and sound like me. And it was not a normal English accent. I had to sound like from someone from the north of England, and I'm from the south of England.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So I had to like, me mum say I had to go out, but I can't go out today, so I gotta stay in because I'm not allowed with you. So I had to change my voice in such a way that I had to change the accent as
Yeah.
well as my voice. And then the next play I did, I was totally myself, but I was like, and I was like, oh, but like I had, and I'm not saying this in any way, it sounded like I was with people who do have this, I sounded like a professor, which I was with ADHD. So I had to sound mad and over the hype to myself.
Yeah, and because when you embrace that role and actually take on that character, and like I know this is more of a theater thing, but actually just closing your eyes and pretending that you are that character. It's not just, oh, I have to play this role kind of apathetically just because this is the role that I've been given. No, like actually take on that role. Breathe like that person, talk like that person, eat like that person, do everything like that person, and you will be more inclined. And in voiceover, same thing. Same thing. When we're hired to play a role that's not us, we have to be as authentic to that role as we can be.
Yeah. And, you know, I, I'm not saying I have sponsorships right now, but I've got 3 people at the end of the podcast and I allow them to promote, their book. I think, yeah, they all got books. One's a children's author and then one's talking about, I forgot what he's talking about. It's his journey and, a book he's got released and I applaud him. And then it's got my partner I'm with and she's got 13 poetry books, but she wants people to be aware. I give them the space just to have a free slot to say, talk about it. And I drop it in such a way that, and I don't mind saying this because algorithms won't mind, but it drops in such a way that it seems like they're just talking about their journey. But my girlfriend, she hasn't done voice work before. And you listen to that voiceover when she says, "Hi, I'm Amy Allison," and she talks about her books. Her voice is so natural for a voiceover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think in the example I've given with what I've got her promoting, she's actually singing along with it and she's embracing her true self. And I applaud her for it.
Yeah. That's what we
And
want
and
nowadays.
she's like, I don't know what to say. And I said, okay, here's a rough sketch, and she's like reading the script I made her. That's the only time I've actually helped anyone write scripts. I've done other scripts, but not majorly like, here you go, read that. So she's like, oh yeah, mate, and she sounds really natural at the voiceover.
Mm.
She's my voiceover at the end of a podcast saying, if you've got a journey to share with David and others, she's that voice. I just added the music and a voice overlay and then the visual overlay. It works. I applaud
Mhm.
her for doing that. It took a lot for her to do because normally she's very, I'm not saying hesitant, she just gets worried about people's perception about how she sounds.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
she's her true self.
Yeah. And that's more valuable nowadays. Back in the day, they used to, and some people are still, they haven't adapted because some of these older voice actors still do this, where it's this really dramatic, come on and buy my stuff today, and you'll get 15% off as soon as you use the code to sign up for free today. All those kinds of very like sing-songy delivery. That's not the way brands build trust anymore. And some voice actors have not, we call it puking in the radio industry. They have not they haven't adjusted to what the market demands right now when it comes to voiceover. And when it comes to voiceover, it's exactly people like your girlfriend who are just natural, authentic. They sound like a real person because again, I sound like a broken record, but it's the concept that I'm so big on. That's what builds trust, and trust delivers results.
Yeah, and you've got TV shows. That's a common one where you've got voiceovers a lot. Now, TV shows, when I saw the older ones, it sounded really enthusiastic. Today, the same TV show sounds really enthusiastic, but it's a different voiceover. But it's like, it doesn't sound the same.
Yeah. Sounds a little toned down, right? A little bit
Yeah.
chiller. It doesn't sound like a big show. It sounds like just a, hey, you and me hanging out.
But it's still the same show.
It's the
And
same show.
and it's a famous game show. You probably know the one I'm referring to for the voiceover. It's like a very common word where they always, I will say it in the loosest way, come on down.
Yep. Yep. And I know exactly what you're talking about. And I know the guy who used to do the voiceovers, and he would just be like, he would be so sing-songy and come on down and,
And you
make
listen
your
to it,
best guess.
and you listen to it nowadays, it's like it's not as stretched out as it was.
No, it's not yet. And that's because that's what we resonate with. People who sound like us. And this wild person on TV who's talking like he's high on something. That is not what we resonate with anymore. We resonate with people. You're just talking to me. We're just hanging out right now. It's chiller.
And then the UK bought that TV show in the late 80s. They tried to make it as close to the American version, original
Mm,
American version as possible. It sounded good. It was okay. It was okay for its time. Then they took it off air and then they brought it back with a comedian hosting instead of the original host. And they brought over, he's often known as voiceover man, and he's known for saying, now is the time. And he sounds more of the original American because he says, come on down. And he's passionate about it.
yeah. Yeah.
So I just believe the passion of anything narration, and you said about trust, the narration, gaining trust is being the true authentic self. And if you watch older shows, be your true authentic self.
Yep. Yeah,
Like
that's all
I,
you can do.
like another contact I got, he's the voiceover of the UK Big Brother.
Mm-hmm.
And when he first, and I've often said this to him when I've spoken to him, when he originally was on Big Brother in the early days, season one, season two, is like, day one, the housemates are together. That was okay for the original Big Brother
Mm-hmm.
because no one expected the expectation of being Big Brother in the UK being big. But over the years, it's like day one, and it became more animated.
Yeah.
So everyone
Yeah.
now associates him as day one, and he's more animated. They don't want the day one, and I'm not condoning him. Brilliant man, brilliant voiceover man. My early podcast voiceovers was that man,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I didn't mind that.
Yeah. You got to know who your audience is too, and that's key in voiceover is not just reading something for the sake of reading it, but knowing who exactly you're talking to, reverse engineering that process, put yourself in their shoes. What would you want to hear if you were listening to this for whatever purpose it is? Is it an audiobook? Is it a podcast? Is it a TV show like that? What would you want to hear? What would resonate most with you and build the most trust with you? Because reverse engineering that process is how you start to develop how you're going to sound as the voiceover person.
Yeah, like people, if they were to hire me as a voiceover, they would do it because I'm British.
Yes. There's huge market for that. Yeah.
And I would be like, and I read a bit from your bio going, with a master's degree from the Newhouse School, I it's,
Yes.
so it's adaptable. Or I could go into, in addition, John is the founder of John, I could make it sound exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. But that
Or
British sound is a lot of people like that. And there's a
I
really
can go
great
really
market.
deep in the microphone and say John is the founder of StoryTrust Media.
Yep. That's another option. And that versatility is key. Having that versatility, man, that's what voiceover is all about. Cause then you can be multiple different things, multiple different characters, and get hired for all the more jobs.
So if anyone wants a voiceover from British perspective, my name's out there. That's
You
my
got
little
David if you want British. You got John if you want general Midwestern American.
yeah. So if you want a general British accent, my voiceover will sounds very much like this. And I read this, and I can read this, and I can read that, but I can't talk like that.
There you go.
So I can see you can do my intonation because I can talk like that. And my face, as you visually can see, if anyone can't see it, I'm making those faces. It's about the facial muscles and what you use.
Yep, and that's why it takes practice. You got to work out those facial muscles.
Just like that. So going into the present, and we have been talking about past, present, and future in this, so it's a mixture of everything. Your work, people often will want to know how they can get in contact with you because there is always a say, okay, I like John. How do we get in contact with John? So how can you change it into contacting you, should I say, in a professional voice?
I think that would be a professional voice. Yeah. LinkedIn. LinkedIn. That's everything for me. Jon Goehring on LinkedIn. Goehring. John without the H. Jon. Jon Goehring on LinkedIn. Of course, you can also email me at john@jonathangoehring.com. But shoot me a DM on LinkedIn. I'd love to be connected up there because that's where I really do my all of my social media.
And I will make sure the link is for your LinkedIn is in the description when I post edit. So
Perfect.
obviously journeys come to a conclusion where you have to say, okay, I've done my time. I want to help people, or people are in the car listening to music or even podcasts, which I generally float between the two, depending on what my mood set is.
Yep. Me too.
They listen to inspiration 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
They listen to a podcast because it is inspiration, even if it's a comedy-based podcast or even a
Yep.
radio show. But what
Yeah.
would you say to those people listening? And you can even say watching because some people have their phones or tablets and they were all like, okay, let's watch this. What would you say to those people on their journey?
I would tell anybody who's checking this out, audio or video, um, that your journey is made of a lot of different steps, and some of those steps are going to feel like they're backward steps. Some of those steps, like if you're like me and you worked in radio for several years and you realize that you were on a sinking ship, some of those steps are going to feel hopeless and desperate, but ultimately the journey is a result of all of those steps. What you learn from those backward steps is just as important, if not more important, than what you learn from those forward steps. So you got to embrace all the steps, even the ones that feel like they're moving you in the wrong direction. And that's the most important thing in your journey, is to embrace those steps, because I believe every step is happening for a reason. Every step is laid out in front of you and meant to get you to where you're going to go. But sometimes it just doesn't feel like you're moving in the right direction. Embrace those times nonetheless, and realize that ultimately it's working you toward those goals that you have. And if you can take those no's and those steps in the wrong direction as building blocks and learning experiences, then your journey will ultimately lead you to your goal if you stay focused on it. And that will be the most rewarding thing, looking back on it and saying, you know what? It felt like it was a step in the wrong direction, but it actually helped propel me to where I am today.
I love that. And it's about trusting, and you say the key word in this element is trust. It's about trusting yourself.
Yes, absolutely. You do have to trust. I mean,
Yes, you
trust the
trust off,
process.
you got to trust others, but ultimately you got to trust yourself in saying, I can do this.
Yeah, and it sounds cliche, but yeah, trust the process, right? Like the process will get you there. It's just that we get impatient sometimes, especially in our modern Western culture. We get impatient, but it will get you there. It's a practicing patience is such a key
And
thing in
I've and
business and
I've done
life.
that with the journey myself. I took
Yeah,
time. People may think it's only 200 or 200 of whatever number I'm on as this is recorded. So you could be 240 to whatever number. But the fact is, it takes time. It takes practice. It takes about building blocks to get to a stronger place. And even when you're at the strongest point, you're still adapting.
yes, absolutely.
Like YouTubers, they start off in their bedroom. Then they go into production, they start building from that, and they go into a new studio, and then they build on that studio and make the studio better and stronger. And I
Yeah.
follow YouTubers who've done that. I followed them pretty much all their journeys, like seeing them in their early days compared to where they are now. Production has gone up a lot more because they took time to trust themselves.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to start, and don't be afraid to invest.
Exactly.
But that journey, it's composed of all those different steps, the ones in the right direction and the ones in the wrong direction. But just keep moving forward and trust the process, and you will ultimately get to where you want to be. Although you'll never really truly arrive, because we're all works in progress, right? But growth is the journey.
Mm, ultimately, that is. And on that, I'd just like to say, and I'll say this in its deepest voice, John, thank you for sharing your journey with us today. But seriously, but thank you.
Thank you, David. This was a blast.
You're welcome.
Every journey begins with a single step, and this one, it's the story of Cat Girl and Wise Tiger, two hearts, both fierce and free, stepping into a world of new beginnings. With every sunrise comes a chance to start again. There'll be ups and downs, moments of love, bursts of laughter, and shadows that test the soul. They'll face their past, their fears, and maybe find the courage to heal what was once broken. But through it all, they'll never lose that young at heart spirit, because when you believe in yourself, when you believe in each other, anything is possible. So what are you waiting for? Adventure, emotion, and heart await. It's time to pounce into their story and begin your own journey too.
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. I've just been listening to the Paramedic Chris children's books on audio again, and I just love it because they've given a tribute in one of them to my dad as well, who passed away a few years ago. I love audio books, and it's great to walk around, and it's great to sit at the computer, if you're out jogging or wherever, to listen to them as well. All 4 of the Paramedic Chris children's books are available on audiobook from Amazon. Go and take a listen to them. You won't be disappointed. You'll hear what happens when a community pulls together and supports one another. The best thing is to pop over to my website, paramedicchriskidsbooks.org, and you'll see the links on the shop page. Keep safe, everyone, and thank you for being you.
Hi there, I'm Michael Drake, and I've written a book called The Paradox of a Mortal Mind. It's an invitation to slow down and really think about your life as a temporary part of who you are as a person. I want you to step back and think about, the things, the chances that you have in life, and the relationships that you have in life, and what you value. And the book is like I said, an invitation to slow down, really think about where you are and where you want to go, and just embrace the beauty of impermanence. Embrace the fact that you will be a picture on the wall one of these days, and it's your opportunity to leave an impact on the people that you love and the community that you have. And it's really about how you make people feel at the end of the day. And so you can pick up my book anywhere on Amazon, anywhere in the world. It'll ship right to your door. It's called The Paradox of a Mortal Mind. It's by Michael Drake. And I also have a website. It's called themortalmind.com. And you can get my audiobook, my ebook, and I hope you enjoy it. And thank you very much for being here.
The Journey podcast explores stories of personal growth, challenges, and life-changing moments. Each episode dives into unique experiences, offering insights and inspiration for listeners navigating their own paths. I believe everyone has a story worth sharing. If you'd like to share your journey with David and others, email your story to wisewords1983@reborn.com, and it may be featured in a future episode.